Welcome back, guys. So today I'm doing my Texas Chainsaw Massacre film ranking. So out of all 8 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, I'm going to rank them. And again, I am doing another collab with Derek from Derek's Horror Corner because we collabed on every single one of these films. And check those out if you haven't. And what we're going to do in this is he's going to have a segment in mine and I'm going to have a segment in his list where like we say off our ranking but not describe them. So Derek in this video is going to have a segment where he talks about, he just says his ranking in order of how he feels on how he likes the films, but with no description. Like, and then that'll make you go to his video and make him go to my video, or make people from his video go to mine. So we're doing a thing so we can still collab because it's so fun to collab together. So let's let Derek go ahead and do his top 10. So take it away, Derek.
Hey, this is Derek from Derek's Horror Corner. So this will be another Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise collab with Corey from CDR. This time we'll be ranking the movies in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise from worst to best. So if you want an explanation, I'm going to have a detailed, awesome ranking video on my channel. You need to come over to my channel and check it out. So here's my ranking. So coming in at last at number 8 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Coming in at number 7 is Leatherface: Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Coming in at number 6 is Texas Chainsaw 3D. Coming in at number 5 is the 2017 Leatherface prequel. Coming in at number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Coming in at number 3 is the 1974 original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Coming in at number 2 is the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And coming in at number 1, the champion of the franchise, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, the prequel to the remake. So if you want to hear my explanation of this ranking, come on over to my channel and check out my video. And Corey, thanks again for letting me collab with you.
Thank you so much, Derek. All right, so my ranking for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Boy, this is a interesting one to rewatch. This franchise is very interesting. Let's just get into it. The only Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie I fucking hated was Texas Chainsaw 3D. And that is, of course, my number 8. That is my least favorite overall, but honestly, in terms of like horror sequels, this might be one of my least favorite horror sequels ever. I think this is horrendous. Alexandria Daddario is in this. Yeah, she's cute, but man, there's not much she can do. There's not, like, the kills and the gore are fine, but the story is incredibly asinine and horrible. Like, they literally, these people, I guess, are stupid enough to think that this character, Alexandria Daddario, so in 1973 she was born, and in 2013 she is 20 years old. What? And then also the crooked cops are the bad guys in this movie. Not the cannibal killers, but the crooked cops that killed the cannibal killers. Again, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it is ridiculous in how horrendously awful this story is. And again, I can give a few positives. The gore is fine. But because this is so inept and so horribly stupid in terms of the plot, in terms of, like, both, just this girl should be fucking 40 years old, and also the use of crooked cops being the bad guys as opposed to the cannibals. Seriously, like, what? Like, how on earth? I mean, if people like this is fine, but I don't get how people like this movie. This is definitely my least favorite and one of my least favorite horror sequels ever, Texas Chainsaw 3D. And then my number 7 would be Leatherface: Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. Now, this one falls at 7 because this one is the most dull and the most boring to get through. Like, I watched this again like a month ago and I remember nothing about it. Like, I kind of wanted to watch my review just to remember, but the characters are so bland, the gore is so bland. There's nothing really that stood out to me with this sequel, and it's weird because New Line Cinema got a hold of the rights from Canon, and like we're gonna make like a new Freddy in terms of like bringing Leatherface to be New Line's mascot, but of course that didn't work. So they held off for a while. and did more Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies later down the line, but they started with this one, which was a very weird failed project that bombed at the box office. Nobody remembers it. Nobody likes it. I mean, I don't want to say that. People do like this movie. There are people who love it. I've heard people who love it. But for me, I just think this is incredibly boring, incredibly... Honestly, it's the most useless sequel, honestly. At least in 3D, I can rant about it and be pissed about it. This one is just so incredibly forgettable. So that's why it's my number 7, Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. And then number 6, let's talk about another Leatherface movie, which is Leatherface 2017, the prequel to the original movie, but also connected to Texas Chainsaw 3D, so they make a trilogy. And Leatherface 2017 has some good gore. I like these characters fine. I did think that this did a more interesting job of being a prequel than the beginning was, even though the beginning I like more. But this one actually delved into Leatherface as a kid, and it did an interesting job of not being the same movie like a lot of these are. A lot of these movies are the same movie, and I like how Leatherface 2017 was actually different than the other ones. Like, it didn't have the same... Like, it has homages to the other movies, but it didn't do the same thing that they do in every movie, like with the kills and with the characters. Like, it felt way more different, and that turned a lot of people off. But this one is fine. Leatherface 2017 is it's fine, it's average. Some of the gore is good, some of the characters are good. It's just kind of dumb sometimes, but overall, Leatherface 2017 is fine, and it's my number 6. And then my number 5 would be one that people would put at the very bottom, but fuck everybody, I don't care. I really, really love Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. This one is so awful. It's horrible, but it is so hilarious. Matthew McConaughey is genuinely a great actor in this movie, and I know people are gonna be like, wait, hold up, like, what are you talking about? Like, he just embodies himself in this role of Vilmer, who's this crazy relative of Leatherface, who's this lawyer, and he is just batshit insane, but his performance, I think, is actually really great, really funny. And at the beginning of the movie, he's actually really intimidating and scary. And honestly, Renee Zellweger as well, I thought is actually a really good final girl. Her character, Jenny, like, I thought she was really good in the movie. And the movie just suffers from being such a WTF movie where, like, there's random scenes that just happen for no fucking reason, but it's funny because of that. Like for example, whenever the government conspiracy guy comes into the house and Ginny's tied up, he just goes up to Ginny and licks her face. But it's so funny because it's just so random and stupid, but it's just also so insanely stupid, but it is fun. It is the anti-Texas Chainsaw 3D in my opinion. I really do like The Next Generation a lot, so that's why it's at my number 5. Not the best or most entertaining, but it's good. It's good in terms of how dumb it is. And then my number 4 would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, the prequel to the remake, which I think did a good job of being very gritty and very tone-wise like the first movie. And I think that these characters are all good. I think that they're all likable. I think that they all, like, by the end of the movie, whenever they all die, like, I did feel a little bit for them going. Because, yeah, they are stereotypical, like, horror movie characters, but I did like them. And Arlie Ermy is terrifying in this movie, and he is genuinely... Because Arlie Ermy is so intimidating anyways, whenever he was alive and did these roles, but he just is horrifying in this movie, and I love that. I love how scary he is. He's scarier than the original character in the original movie, in Part 2. So I really, really like The Beginning a lot. The Beginning is a great Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I really like how this one is kind of underrated. So that's my number 4. And then my number 3 would be the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, starring Jessica Biel, which Erin, Jessica Biel's character, is a really cool final girl. I actually like her a lot. I think that these characters, again, I like the gore. I think the gore's effective. I think that these characters are fun. I think that they did enough to really make this one not feel like a remake. It feels like a sequel, but in a good way. Because they did have the template of, like, these kids encounter Leatherface, like, and his family. But they do so many alterations where it it doesn't really feel like a remake, which I think is gives it props, because if it's the exact same movie like the Psycho remake or something, then people would rant like crazy. So I do like that this movie holds its own as a movie, and and with cinematography and in terms of gore, like this is actually really great. Again, I've talked about this in my video for it, but that moment where that girl shoots herself in the head, and like the camera view goes out from them screaming out through the back of her open head wound, and like goes outside of the car, is one of the coolest cinematic like moments in any horror movie ever I've seen. So I love that about this movie. Just a really, really great remake. One of the best horror remakes out there that came out in the late 2000s that were based on the big franchises. I'd say this is my favorite, definitely. If I had to compare this to the Nightmare remake and the Friday remake, this is definitely my favorite out of the three. So I really like the remake. I think the remake is a really good one, and a lot of people agree. And then my number 2 would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which is just such an incredibly fun time. I love these characters. I really love Stretch. Stretch is such an awesome character. She is so fun, so likable, and I also think Caroline Williams is really cute. I think that she's great in the movie. I think that all the I love the fact that this is Tobe Hooper's like sequel, and he directed the first one, but it is a black comedy and it is genuinely funny. And a lot of people are turned off by it. But I love the humor. I love these characters. I love Chop Top. Chop Top was a great new addition. Drayton Sawyer is so hilarious in this movie. Like his lines, every time he says something insane, cracks me up. Like whenever he is mad on the on the phone, whenever like he's talking to like Leatherface and Chop Top, because they were like it was put on the radio like by Stretch that like them killing those kids in the on the road, and like it's hilarious because the way that Drayden Sawyer reacts is like, you cocksuckers, you like he just gets really pissed off and just says random things that are really funny because this actor is really good in being really funny. And then Chop Top, whenever he like says "lick my plate, you dog dick," like all that humor to me works very well. And again, it feels so close to the original, the first one, in terms of continuity, because the other films all don't feel like they're connected to the first one. This one feels like it's very connected to the first one in how it looks, in the style, even though it's a comedy. That's why I think it's second best, because I really do love these characters. I love the humor. I love the gore, too. The gore is really good. So that's why Part 2 is my number 2. And then my number 1, cliched as it is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And rewatching this genuinely is one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen, and it still holds my attention and still holds my fear every time I watch this movie. Everything about how low budget this is, everything about how Tobe Hooper made this movie, everything about the way it looks, the grittiness, it looks like a literal snuff film, like you were watching people literally dying on screen. It is horrifying. These characters are all horrifying. Leatherface is horrifying. The Hitchhiker is horrifying. All these characters, whenever they die, like it is horrible and scary. And the thing is that this is a bloodless slasher too, like the original Halloween or like Black Christmas, and it keeps that amount of fear. And I love that this is a goreless movie. I love that there's not any gore, because I am so fixated on the tension in this movie that it does not matter if I see gore in this one particular one out of all the other films. And I really love this movie. It's just one of the best horror movies ever made, one of my favorite horror movies ever made, and one of the scariest horror movies ever made. So that's why it is my number 1. So that is my ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Thank you again, Derek, for another collab. Check out his video that he's doing with my segment. And how would you rank the franchise? Tell me down below. So thank you guys so much for watching.